And call to order our regular town council meeting today for Tuesday, April 2nd. It is 3 p.m. Can I get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Reeves? Here. Councilmember McKee Kent?
Here.
Vice Mayor Tripp? Here. Mayor Moeller?
Here. And with that, can everyone stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And could I get a motion to and a second to adopt today's agenda?
I move to adopt.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? That passes unanimously. Item 5, council member announcements. Just hit your light if you have any announcements, and I'll be happy to call on you. Councilmember McKee Kent, first in.
Thank you very much. Should I turn that off? Thank you. So want to remind the public about some safety events that we have going on. The first one is tomorrow in tandem with our community cookout. We have Fire Station 12 there going to show and demonstrate cooking safety, grilling safety specifically. So that will be important for us with summer coming up. And then on Saturday, April 13th, from 10 until noon, we have the town of Yountville and CERT are presenting Until Help Arrives. This is a 90-minute class that teaches people to act in an emergency before professionals or responders can arrive. And it's important for people to know that registration on Eventbrite looked like we were full, but we have released more seats. So please, people, keep signing up for that. And then last but not least, our IT manager here, Jason, is teaching tech preparedness, a workshop on April 30th. He is a wizard, and I think people will really get a lot out of it. He realized during our recent extended power outage how much information people are not privy to. So he is going to make his secrets of the kind of being more sustainable in case of power outages available. So I hope people can attend that too. And that's 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reeves.
Yes, I just wanted to remind the community of a community celebration for Jennifer Carvalho for April 21st from 4 to 7 with a short program beginning at 4:30. This is a community-sponsored event to celebrate her 38 years in town. Well, longer than that, but her 38 years of very much devoted attention to the community as an employee and also a member of lots of the service organizations in town. It'll be a potluck with small bites and appetizers provided by the community. And we're asking for photos, if anyone has those, of Jennifer or your family participating in events over the years with Jennifer. And there will be a table available with paper and pens to create a memory or a wish for Jennifer to go into a special book. So come one and come all for that. It will be very fun. And then the next one is kind of an Earth Day thing, which is Saturday, April 27th from 12 to 3 p.m. at the American Legion Hall in Napa on Pearl Street. It is presented by Napa Climate Now. You can find out about the latest rebates and innovations for climate-friendly devices and appliances, and it's always difficult to keep up with all of those things on your own, so this is a one-stop shop to learn about all the things that you might have been confused or curious about.
All right. Thank you very much. And also in honor of Earth Day, we'll be having our annual Shred It Day event. We're also taking e-waste that will be in the community center. This is hosted by the Town of Yountville, Upper Valley Waste Management, West America Bank, as well as Waste Connections. So starts at noon, and it goes till 3 o'clock. So bring any of your papers you want shredded and e-waste, and we'll see you there. Very popular event, and we'll be talking a little bit more at our next council meeting. We can give more details about our annual town-wide garage sale. Really an amazing. It's more of a party than a garage sale, but that's May 7th. It's always on Mother's Day, and then we will have cleanup day the following Saturday for anything that didn't sell. You can put it out on your curb. So with that, let's move on to proclamations and recognitions. We have one introduction. Brad, are you going to lead us off on this? We have Sergeant James Baumgartner we're going to hear about.
Well, I know Sergeant Malott likes to speak in public, and so I'll invite him up to introduce our new sergeant.
Mayor and Council, good afternoon. James Baumgartner. I wasn't prepared to speak because it's not my favorite thing. James's dad hired me at the sheriff's office like 28 and a half years ago.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure that it was his excuse to hire James, because prior to that they had hired kind of an older crowd and a larger stature. And then all of a sudden they brought me in as a very young and immature 23-year-old, and I didn't really understand why they had changed. And then I think James got hired immediately after me by his father. So that's my story about James. I am retiring from the sheriff's office May 9th of this year. Hopefully, if they allow me back, I would like to go work. They have part-time annuitants working as bailiffs in the court and doing transportation and some other jobs like that. So if I pass their background and they hire me back, you'll see me if you get jury duty. So.
Yeah, and I'll just add before James takes, because I was obviously joking with you, Sergeant, but this is both an introduction and a thank you. Obviously, having worked with Sergeant Malott, he's been a joy, and the 10 months we've spent together. But we are going to, against his wishes, find a way to formally recognize him as well. So this isn't goodbye. We're going to see, and it's nice.
Going to roast him.
Yeah, we're going to figure out a way to roast you. You're going to make a. You're going to have to do the State of the Town speech. I didn't mention that. No, but but I think the opportunity, and I had a really good fortune to spend some time with Sergeant Baumgartner and interview him, and I want him to introduce himself. But I think having the overlap of what will be about a little over, I guess, about a month, a little more than a month, is really valuable, so that you'll see these two together, and Sergeant Malott can kind of transfer his knowledge while we're all getting to know Sergeant Baumgartner, which there is a lot of. I know you're humble, but thank you so much for your service to the town, and I know that you're a big part of our family. So thank you.
Thank you. You guys all know I worked here in town over 20 years ago, and I worked most of my time for the sheriff's office in the valley. I don't live far from here. Kelly's Coffee is my favorite in the valleys. Even when I'm not being employed in the town, I'll still be there. I've had a good time working in the town. I appreciate the support from everybody in town.
Well, we'll be seeing you again. So anyway,
It's not goodbye yet.
Sergeant Baumgartner, come on up.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. Did they each get my bio?
No.
Nope.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but
You have 3 minutes. That's okay. That's okay.
no, I really do have some big shoes to fill with Mike Malott leaving.
Yeah, no.
But I look forward to it. I have been employed with the Sheriff's Department 27 years. I am 49 years old. I also live just a couple miles south of here, so I am readily available for you folks at any time. And I will make myself available for the town and for the community here. I have spent most of my career working Valley Graveyard Patrol. I've worked patrol graveyard my entire career. I love it. But that is going to change now, and I'm fine with that. A couple of things that I do for the Sheriff's Department. I am on the off-road team. I also, which I ride a dual sport motorcycle up in the Knoxville area, and I am boat certified out on Lake Berryessa and patrol the Napa River. I oversee 60 civilians at the Sheriff's Department, oversee the search and rescue team and the mounted posse. You will see the mounted posse here in Yountville a little bit more, I think, now. One being at National Night Out. We're gonna bring them to the town and ride them to the each event is the plan. And like I said, Leo can pick up the waste. That is Leo's problem. I've always been, my dad taught me this, is you talk to people, you get out of your car, you walk, you shake people's hands, and you just tell them about yourself. And, you know, I tell these young kids when they're hired and they just want to run and gun, you know, write tickets and just go chase the bad guy. And it's a lot more to it than that. So you will see me out on the bike, and you will see me walking the town. I for sure, absolutely. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I am horrible at public speaking as well, but I will get better. Mike Malott tried to teach me a couple things this morning. PowerPoint is not my is not a strong point, but I guess I have to do that, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So thank you guys very much. I look forward to working here.
Well, welcome to Yountville. We're a pretty great bunch of people here, so I think we'll be looking forward to you. We'll be missing Mike, but we're not done with him yet and having another party. So welcome, and thanks for joining our team here in Yountville.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
All right, thanks. We have a couple proclamations. I'm going to start with Child Abuse Prevention Month. I think, Jessica, are you going to come up? Meet me at the podium? And any of her team is welcome as well.
You want your wand?
So after I read the proclamation, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Blue Ribbon Month, and the council was just all up doing the installation. So, yes. Okay, great. So today we are recognizing April 2024 is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas National Child Abuse Prevention Month will be recognized throughout the United States during the month of April 2024, and whereas preventing child abuse and neglect is a community problem that depends on involvement among people throughout the town of Yountville, and whereas during periods of economic challenges and disasters, families feel more vulnerable, and as a result, child abuse and neglect increases. Child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure each family has the support they need to raise their children in a safe and healthy environment, and whereas child abuse is considered to be one of our nation's most serious public health problems, with scientific studies documenting the link between the abuse and neglect of children and a wide range of medical, emotional, psychological, and behavioral disorders, and whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among state and local government agencies, schools, faith communities, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Margie Moeller, Mayor of the Town of Yountville, State of California, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of Napa County in California, proclaim April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Yountville. We urge all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to empower parents and nurture children to prevent child abuse and strengthen our community and raise children who thrive. So, thank you very, very much. So, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you.
Great. You guys could too.
First, I'd like to say thank you to the council and to the town of Yountville for recognizing the importance of Child Abuse Prevention Month and for issuing this proclamation. We have a number of, don't go too far, Melissa. We've got a number of items that are happening this month that have already started. The first thing I'd like to tell you about is about Wear Blue for Kids Day, which is happening this Friday. And we encourage everyone to wear blue, and we're going to tie that into our Paint the Town Blue, which we're actively doing throughout Napa Valley. And I'll have Melissa come and tell us just a little bit more about Paint the Town Blue in just a moment. But tying those two in together. And on April 13th, we are hosting Kids Day at the Napa Oxbow Commons. And Kids Day is a wonderful event. We have a ton of partner agencies that come through. We have booths set up that give resources for parents. We have activities for kids. We have developmental screenings that are done for kids. And on top of that, there's entertainment. And we have lots of locals that are around. I believe last year we had over 700 local residents come through, and we're hoping to have that same number this year. So it should be a good time. I'm going to have Melissa come up and tell a little bit about our Paint the Town Blue campaign. Sorry, Melissa.
Hi. Thank you again for proclaiming Child Abuse Prevention Month. So the Paint the Town Blue campaign is where we partner with local businesses to, again, help raise awareness and funds to prevent child abuse in our community. This year, we're fortunate enough to have over 90 businesses participating. They are showing their support by having Blue Ribbon Business decals and helping to distribute information about child abuse prevention and what all of us can do as community members, neighbors, family, aunts, uncles, what all of us can do to help make a difference for children. So all of that information can be found on our website at copefamilycenter.org/blue ribbon. That has all the information about Kids Day, all the information about Paint the Town Blue, all the businesses participating, and all of the various events that are happening all throughout the month that every community member can get involved with.
All right, great. Are you going to tell us a little bit more about how we painted our town blue a little earlier?
Oh, and yes, and thank you also for doing the pinwheel displays just before this meeting. Town Council helped us to, install 109 pinwheels in the community center, just a block down. These displays are, again, all throughout the county, from Calistoga and all the way down to American Canyon, where there are 109 pinwheels displayed at public locations representing the 109 substantiated cases of child abuse last year in Napa County. So again, this is to help raise awareness as a visual reminder of all of the lives that it impacts right here at home. So thank you for helping us install that and leaving it up throughout the month of April. There's, again, more information about that on our website as well.
Thank you, guys do a great job. So thanks for coming, and thanks for painting our town blue with us. So we greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your partnership.
All right, thank you. And now, we have a proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
I heard a little dog.
Hi, how are you? Good, how are you? He's a cutie, too, so we also have a dog, so our first town council meeting dog, so. What's his name?
Cooper.
Cooper. Welcome, Cooper. Today, I'm giving you a proclamation recognizing April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas News, Domestic Violence and Sexual Abuse Services, is commemorating 42 years of service to survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse in Napa County, and having opened as the county's Rape Crisis Center in 2010 to provide safety to those experiencing sexual abuse, and whereas in 2001, the National Sexual Violence Resource Center launched the very first Sexual Assault Awareness Month campaign, and in 2009, the Obama administration officially recognized April as National Sexual Assault Awareness Month, enshrining our county's commitment to promoting education of sexual violence, promoting consent, ending victim blaming, and showing support for victims and survivors. Whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month is about promoting safety, respect, and equality, and standing up and speaking out against harmful cultural norms and attitudes that allow sexual violence to persist. This year's national campaign of Building Connected Communities helps us reduce the likelihood of sexual abuse, assault, and harassment in our communities. And whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment harm our community. Statistics from the U.S. Center of Disease Control shows that over half of women and almost 1 in 3 men have experienced sexual violence involving physical contact during their lifetimes, and that 1 in 4 women and about 1 in 26 men have experienced completed or attempted rape. Sexual violence disproportionately affects women, minors, and racial and ethnic minority groups who experience a higher incident of sexual violence. And whereas, by observing April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we show that our community is committed to supporting survivors and working towards the prevention of sexual violence across generation. And whereas, in fiscal year 2022-2023, News provided services to nearly 1,800 of our Napa County community members, of which 271 were survivors of sexual abuse, and nearly half of those were minors, including 24-hour response and crisis intervention, financial aid, and advocacy, accompanying and assisting of civil and criminal justice proceedings, referrals, and support completing victim compensation application. And now let it be resolved that I, Margie Moeller, Mayor of the Town of Yountville, State of California, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of Napa County and California, join News, advocates, and communities across the country in taking action to prevent sexual violence. I do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Yountville, and I ask the entire community to join in their effort, not only in April, but all year long, to be part of the effort to end sexual violence. Thank you very, very much. Very happy to have you here again. Would you like to say a few words? Oh, great. All right. Cooper, you were excellent. You were a good dog.
Just want to say on behalf of News, thank you guys so much for recognizing April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And there are things that are going to be going on throughout this month. In fact, I see you're wearing teal today. It's National Wear Teal Day in support of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So that's the first thing to start us off. And then we also have a window display in downtown Napa at the District Attorney's Office. And that's where you can find various resources if you or someone you know have been a victim of sexual assault. And then we also, the last thing we have is tabling events, but the best one is on Sunday the 14th. We're actually doing Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. So we will be down at Veterans Park in Napa, gathering from 1 to 3 p.m., and we're all going to stand together as a community to put an end towards the violence. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the good work you do. We really appreciate it.
Have a great one, you guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Bye. Now it's time for public comment. Public comment at this portion is on for anything that is not on today's agenda. See people leaving, but they don't seem to be public comment, so I don't see any public coming forward, so I will move on to our consent calendar, and we'll use our buttons to vote for that. So on our consent calendar, we have 4 items. Can I get a motion and a second, and then we'll use our buttons to vote?
I'll move to adopt our consent calendar items A, B, C, and D.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll use our buttons to vote. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Reeves, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to talk a little bit about item C, which is the, wait a minute, is it that one?
Affordable housing work.
Oh, no, the master fee schedule, that's B, sorry. I just would like the council and perhaps staff to create some time in the future to discuss the master fee schedule and some of the policies that are behind the fee schedule. We have all generally expressed some interest in a few parts of the fee schedule, but it would be great to speak about it overall and do that. I am understanding outside of the budget workshops, but hopefully somewhat soon after.
Did you want to make a comment about what it says in the staff report, the plan is?
Yeah, I think the action before you this evening is just the CPI increase. I think Councilmember Reeves is, in essence, alerting us that there are certain fees that we would like to discuss as it relates to sort of the policy of the fees and whether or not subsidizing the fees or lowering the cost to the public is something we should discuss. So we're preparing for that, and we'll figure out the right time to have that depending on how many fees we want to talk about. So we can talk through briefings, and I'll make sure that gets before the council in due time.
Okay, thank you. We have no guest presentations tonight and no public hearings. We have one administrative regular item. This will be adopting a resolution approving an expenditure plan from Napa Valley Transportation Authority. So we have some guests who will be giving us some information. Kate, you want to come on up?
Thank you very much, Mayor Mueller. So my name is Kate Miller. I'm the Executive Director of the Napa Valley Transportation Authority. And I want to acknowledge the two board members that I have on the council. So Council Member McKee Cant, as well as Mayor Mueller. And we also have today with us my vice chair. And Mark will probably come up and say a few words after I'm done here. So I just wanted to get that over with. I also have two staff members here, Antonio Honorado, who is our Director of Administration and Finance, and then our planner, Mr. Coleman, is a planner at NVTA, and they've been working with me on this project, as well as Danielle Schmitz, who isn't here today. So let me just start out with that. We have an existing half-cent sales tax, Measure T, and Measure T is currently committed 100% to local streets and roads. It generates about $25 million a year and is distributed on a formula to the city, town, and county jurisdictions. It grows by consumer price index, but it's a pay-as-you-go type of program, and the costs that we currently see, the local streets and road maintenance costs, are going up much higher than the measure money is. And so we're proposing to go to the voters in November to pass Measure U. Next slide. So this is an illustration of what is occurring in terms of the condition of our pavement, because the cost of construction is going up so much faster than the revenues that we have to address the local streets and road maintenance. These are scores on the y-axis, and those scores are something that MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, assigns the condition of roadways, and it's based on their one of their modeling tools. And the town of Yountville actually does quite well. That's largely because you commit a lot of general fund money, and also the lane miles that you have to maintain are significantly smaller than most of the other jurisdictions in the Bay Area. Next slide, please. So what we're looking at doing is actually allowing bonding. Measure T doesn't allow bonding. Measure U does. We've done a lot of modeling. And we're also extending the program, or would propose to extend the program to 30 years. So over the life of the 30-year period, we would generate about $1.2 billion. About 91% of that would go to local streets and roads, 7.3% to regional projects, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and then 2% for administration. I'm going to talk about it now, apparently. $56 million is what we're proposing to pull out of the program, and we want to focus on making some significant traffic reduction investments. The main one would be at the intersection of State Route 29 and State Route 12. There would be grade-separated intersection improvement at that intersection. It would also include improvements at Kelly, and then we would work with the county to make improvements at Devlin. We're looking at grade roundabouts at the latter two intersections, and a grade separated would be like an overpass, very similar to the Soskel Junction project that we're currently working on, with roundabouts either above or below grade that would allow for turning movements in all directions. The next project that we would be looking at is improvements in American Canyon. That would be to improve the multimodal facilities, to add bike and pedestrian, improve transit operations, and also remove the signals at 6 intersections and replace them with roundabouts to improve traffic flow. And then the final main intersection improvement would be State Route 29 and State Route 12. We really are very much in the preliminary investigation stage of that project, but it does look like a roundabout might be able to work at that intersection as well. So again, the idea is we remove the signals, we improve traffic flow, and we also improve safety. Then the final program would be highway operations and emergency evacuation. As you can imagine, during the Paradise Fire, and we saw the devastation of people trying to get out and not having information on which access points to leave on. One of the ideas that staff has would be to add highway information signs to let people know which direction to go in. We could also use those for other things, such as when there's crashes on the highway. That program is not fully fleshed out because there has been an interest by a number of jurisdictions to make investments in various places in the valley to improve emergency evacuation. Next slide. This is just a little bit more about what the highway operations and emergency evacuation could look like. We're not going to have signs like that. Our signs don't need to be as magnificent as the ones that we see on 80, but they could be smaller, but yet still inform members of the public on which direction to go. The operations center would be housed at the maintenance facility at Sheehy Court. And we would be able to actually put the messages on the sign. So we would have, real-time information working with the Sheriff Department and CHP. Next slide. So over the life of Measure T, you can see how much money would be distributed. Under Measure U, there's significantly more money, and that's largely because there's 5 additional years. And that amount of money is still more for each jurisdiction, even when we pull out the revenues that we would need for both the $56 million in base costs plus the cost of issuing debt. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the next slide. Or the slide after that. This is how also one of the things that we've done with Measure U, which is different than Measure T, is we index the distribution to something that was more meaningful that could be updated. So we don't know what the Measure T percentage was based on, but the Measure U is based on return to source, and except for the county, which is return to source, and lane miles, and then that was trued up. And you can see that it roughly resembles what revenues each jurisdiction got or are getting under Measure T, but it also is would be memorialized in the expenditure plan and would be updated every 5 years, so it would recognize the growth that each jurisdiction has in their revenues. Next slide. So why bond? It does cost money. There is a certain amount of interest that we have to pay back to the people who are buying the bonds. What we would do is we would go out in tranches based on what the need is, and each jurisdiction has the opportunity to also advance their revenues and bring them forward so that they can get at larger projects and deferred maintenance. We can't issue bonds for projects that are going to be not delivered in a 3-year period, so it's going to be a tax-deductible bond structure. And we would size the tranche based on what the need is. So our modeling was one thing. It showed that we were actually going to issue debt on all $56 million. That may not be what occurs. It also may be that we don't find enough grant funds to match the $56 million from this program to deliver those projects. So we're not going to issue debt unless we have revenues available, and it's sort of early on in the program because we're issuing debt 20 years down the road doesn't make sense. So we only did the modeling based on sort of what our highest hopes are. So any revenues that we don't use in that $56 million would go back to the jurisdictions. The other thing that we get a benefit of is we get way ahead of our construction costs, right? We bring them all up front. We deliver all of the projects. We can deliver a lot more projects, so there's an economies of scale component to that. And so we really just beat the game of what's occurring now. Our revenues go up by CPI. Our construction costs go up at almost twice that. Next slide. So this is the models that we ran. Again, they're just financial models, but it's illustrative in terms of how much revenues we would get based on 3 assumptions on how we would issue the tranches. So we would issue 4 equal tranches under scenario 1, and under scenario 2 it'd be small to large tranches, and then scenario 3 larger to smaller tranches. And then you can see how much revenues you would get. Under this program, the jurisdictions would have to take off the top of their revenues the interest that is paid on the bonds for the regional projects. So that's why it deviates. But you still, under all 3 scenarios, would get more revenues than you would under Measure T. Next slide. And this is the great thing. The modeling shows, so we took the amount of revenues that you received and we put them into MTC's pavement model, and these are the scores. So while you already have an excellent score, 70, I think it actually went up to 78 since we developed this slide, it would go up to, possibly 83, which is a great thing because under Senate Bill 1, you'd be able to have a lot more flexibility on how you use those revenues. Next slide. So the timeline is that we have been working on this actually for 4 years, but the NBTA TA board approved it in February. And we are now rotating around each jurisdiction, and we will bring this back to the board of directors in May for approval of the expenditure plan, which is not going to change because we don't have time to change it. But there are some questions and asks around the ordinance that we are going to be tweaking, and we will bring those back to the board for their consideration in May. What we're asking you to do today is approve the resolution that approves the expenditure plan, not the ordinance. And then hopefully we'll get approval by all 6 jurisdictions and be able to put this on the ballot in November. And I know that Mr. Joseph probably has a lot more to say about this, but I just want to reiterate that it is not an increase. And taxpayers would be paying the same amount of money that they do now. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think I'll let Vice Chair Joseph speak first.
Well, thank you for giving me this chance, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, simply because you probably have heard a lot of it anyway, and you have the rest of the agenda to worry about. I would just describe it as saying it's not a new tax. It's the same tax we've had for literally 25 years. But it's a better program. And Kate talked about the bonding capacity, which I think as a former finance director, bonding has a lot of inherent advantages regardless of the context, but it's also an opportunity to begin to create these regional programs. Traffic relief more at the south end of the county, but emergency response and evacuations at the upper valley. These are two programs that were never envisioned in the original Measure T, and yet, as we know, those are probably two critical programs that will improve the safety as well as the economic vitality of this valley. And so even though we probably don't have enough money for that, the fact that we're creating those two regional programs is so critical because it gives us that authority down the road to do the things we need to do to address those concerns. There's other program elements. One of the nice things is, again, there is some flexibility in the return to source. Most of it is expected to be used for roads and potholes and all that. But in the case of Yountville, you might want to invest some of that in other projects that are road related. And so that is just more flexibility that's built into this new program. And that's the main reason that, from my perspective, the best case for Measure U is it isn't a new tax, it's just a better program. And a better program is just good business. So that's my pitch. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Kate, I have a quick question. I know you're making the rounds of all the jurisdictions that are members of MVTA. So have other members to date approved the expenditure plan resolution that we're being asked to tonight?
Yeah, so
Are we first, or?
American Canyon heard our presentation, and they're scheduled to adopt it on April 15th, right? And then the city of St. Helena has approved it.
Okay.
And we are scheduled to go to the county, I think, next week, right? And then that's just the city left, right? And Calistoga,
Yeah.
right? So,
Okay.
yeah.
So, council questions, Vice Mayor Tripp.
Yes, I had two questions. I want to just compliment your presentation, which I happened to be substituting one time and heard it as well during the meeting, and the analysis is really great. I just one question is, I understand the bonding in a very simple way, and you say it's a way of bringing funds forward, so it's funds that would have come in. So it's sort of like if I knew I was going to work somewhere 10 years, I brought my salary forward in maybe one lump sum so that then I could put a roof on my house. But my question is, won't I miss that salary in year 8? I mean, if you bring all the money forward, then do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly, and you hit the nail on the head. It will mean, depending on how much money is brought forward to get at these big projects,
right,
will probably dictate when the NVTA-TA board acts again to extend this measure.
Okay. So you would keep enough revenue coming in the door to keep the agency going, basically?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we would obviously, bond underwriters are not going to let us overextend ourselves. Neither are we. But, I mean, that would be the ultimate, they're not going to issue bonds on something that's so high risk.
But you're not borrowing more money than what you plan to have come through the door in the normal course of
That's correct.
$0.50, right?
That's
so
correct. In fact, we won't even issue that much because most local jurisdictions have indicated a need to continue to do some pay-go type work. I mean, we're not going to issue debt on pothole repair, right?
Okay.
We're going to be issuing debt on larger projects that need more revenues than the jurisdiction has to deliver. Okay. So we're not going to issue debt on the entire
all
program.
The expected revenue.
That's right. But it's at some point we're probably going to be. If I were a betting person, probably not going to go out that 30 years. We're probably going to need to go out to the voters again and extend. And there are probably going to be some more regional projects that we're going to want to pay for. Yeah.
And then my second question is, I was looking at your modeling about the scenarios where you get more money than under all the scenarios, an individual jurisdiction, than we do under Measure T. And that must be in part because this isn't a new tax, but it extends a tax that would have expired in 2043 to 2055.
Right. There's more years in Measure U.
So we're getting more money in the scenarios on that slide, not because of the bonding, but more because of the extension.
Right. We didn't.
That right?
Yeah, we didn't. I think the modeling that we did is we did actually make some assumptions about bonding, which went into the scores. that you receive. But those dollar amounts are just straight dollar amounts, right?
So, in part, the scenarios reflect the fact that there'll be Measure U is not an increase in the 1/2 cent, but it is an increase in the duration.
That's correct.
Of the tax. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, and that allowed us to take money out for regional projects too.
And no one probably wants to bond if they don't know that the revenue is going to be coming in.
That's right, because the projects that we're talking about are probably roughly $400 million total. So we're looking at really paying for about 1/6 of them with this program. So we have to go out and find new revenues, but this will allow us to leverage federal and state grant funds and to compete better for them.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Yeah, and it also, the other big thing for us is it's going to reduce our cost to Caltrans. Caltrans charges us for every little thing that they do, reviewing our environmental documents, looking at our PIDs. There's everything they do, and they charge us quite a bit. This would actually cut those costs because there's state statute that limits the amount of indirect overhead to 10%. So that's a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'm going to see another button go on.
I forgot my button. Okay. I don't have a question about this particular approval that you need because it sounds logical and correct. But I do have a question about the sort of the focus of all the work that you are projecting. So it would seem that included in some of these things that I read were, in the roundabouts there will be bicycle paths and things like that. But overall, it didn't seem like there was a concentration on the bicycle pedestrian expansion of facilities, and also like if you make a bicycle lane in the roundabout, and then there's nothing to connect it to anything around it, then it's the bike path to nowhere. Is there another plan that is a layover of this kind of road-heavy planning?
Well, I would just say that none of these projects have been designed, but all of them are in proximity to the Vine Trail, so there is some connectivity just by default. The improvements in American Canyon would have new class. That project's further along than any of the others, and that project has a Class 1 facility, which is a separated facility from traffic for bikes and pedestrians on both sides of the highway, and that would connect to the Vine Trail on the east side and the Bay Trail on the west side. Would there be Class 1 connections to both of those? That I don't know. But it's certainly feasible. The airport connection would also connect to the Vine Trail connection at Devlin. And, we don't have any plans right now. We have discussed things like having a Class 1 along the rail alignment on Jameson, but the railroad has not been super enthusiastic about that. So, but there's definitely a lot of discussion that needs to occur on that project. On Carneros, bikes aren't allowed in that area. And again, we haven't done any of the design on that project yet. We're just looking at preliminary studies. But it's probably worth looking at when at some point Caltrans improves the bridge. That the reason why bikes aren't allowed on it now is that the railing is too low. But they definitely are planning on doing that at some point. And so should we plan for that to happen and build the bike pedestrian facilities out, because the Bay Trail connects right there, just a block away, as you know, on Stanley. So we will definitely be looking at those connections when we design these projects.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, I'm going to reach out and take public comment. Do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I see one public who's not getting up out of his seat. So let me bring it back. And so what I would like from the council is a motion and a second on our resolution that Kate, as Kate mentioned, is just regarding the expenditure plan, and then we'll bring it back to council for further debate and a vote.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and approve moving forward with the expenditure plan that is being proposed by NVTA.
So that's your motion for adopting resolution.
24-4257.
Great. We have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. So bring it back to council. Any comments, thoughts?
Well, I would just ask our two representatives on the Napa Valley Transportation. I know that there was a formula that had to kind of evolve, and I heard a little bit of that discussion. Do you feel it's the right approach for Yountville?
You want to come and make a
I
comment?
am the newest one on the NVTA, so having attended 2 meetings, what I have seen, yes, I think the percentage that is being attributed or credited to the county and Napa as the formula sways a little more in the favor of heavier traffic, us being the smaller municipality. It's a little different, but the fact that the taxes can go out many more years, there's a benefit there.
And also, we had lots of discussion. There was quite a bit of discussion amongst the small jurisdictions about a little more money that can be used, flexible money, and we were able to get the full board support on that. Primarily, I know St. Helena had a lot of concern because they really want some additional signage that they can put up. The only way, except for 29, is going across bridges up there. And also, we really haven't really done a lot of education. We don't have any signage either, really comes to escape routes. So the full board agreed with us on that. So there was a good discussion, and I think that added a little flexibility to this. And it is. And we actually have the same percentage as Calistoga does based on sales taxes. So you'll see that it's 2.7%. So there's been a lot of discussion
And
for
also,
a long time
if
about
we-
all aspects.
If we take into consideration traffic movement in American Canyon at the 12 junction, both coming into the valley and exiting, that benefits us as residents trying to travel, to try to get to Kaiser Hospital for emergencies, and certainly for visitors' experience coming here. So the funds that are going towards those projects will benefit us in the long run. It's just not in our backyard.
That's a very good point.
And one last thing, originally debated for a long time was an $80 million carve out for all the that American Canyon work, and then the city of Napa came to us and really asked that it be cut back to $56 million, just because of some of the numbers and how it was going to affect their budget. So that was changed, and as Kate said, that still is going to be, that project is going to be very dependent. These are only partial funds
Right.
that would go to that. So that's kind of a very quick summary of a lot of long meetings discussion.
So in terms of Yountville, it's a good allocation, basically.
I think, yes, I would answer yes, but I think it's with lots of discussion that all the jurisdictions really feel that it's fair and equitable. Otherwise, we'd probably still be talking about it and wouldn't be here before us. So with that, I'm going to, if town clerk's ready, I'm going to call for the vote.
We're ready to vote.
Okay.
So it's good for climate change.
And you have a unanimous approval of this resolution from the town of Yountville. So thank you very much for coming and.
Right, no rain. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
Councilmember Joseph.
All right. Staff presentations and informational reports. Town manager. You want to
Yes,
talk
thank
to
you,
us?
Mayor. Just a couple quick ones. Celia's going to preview the budget, and Sam has a couple of park and rec, and then I'll mention a couple things. So I'm going to start with Celia.
Yes, thank you, Town Manager. So just a reminder for the community that the budget workshop number 1 is next Tuesday, April 16th, starting at 10:30 a.m. here in the Town Council chambers. So we encourage everyone to come join the discussions with the Town Council.
Isn't it 10:30?
10:30.
Oh, 10:30. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much for that.
And I just wanted to give a brief update on, we had our egg hunt and bunny breakfast on Saturday, which we moved the bunny breakfast indoors because it was still damp outside, and that was really highly attended. We had about 100 people come through, which was great. And then the always chaotic and ever fun-loving egg hunt. This was Taylor's first year of providing that event on her own, and she says, it just felt so chaotic, and I was like, well, that's an egg hunt. But it went really well. We estimate over 350 kids and families out for that. And then today was our first Yountville farm stand of many, and it was a terrific morning. We're partnering with Oasis by Hoops Vineyards, which is their nonprofit side, where they do their farming on site as well as their animal sanctuary. And so on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 12:30, they'll be on the plaza there with fresh vegetables and fruits and goods to buy. And then we also have different vendors that'll be cycling in and out. So I'm not calling it a farmer's market, I'm calling it a farm stand. The number of vendors and the vendors will diversify all summer long, but we're really excited to get that started. And it was a great community gathering spot this morning, which is what we wanted. And you'll see more picking up on the marketing behind that as well as we move forward.
And just a comment, Breakfast with the Bunny, we had our Station 12 fire guys making pancakes and sausage, and there was a great turnout. It really kind of hyped the kids up on a lot of good carbs so they could run really fast. And Taylor did a great job at the Easter egg hunt, too. They have little lines for different age groups, and so when the 4 to 6 were all done, they just went under the little rope and started. But Taylor got them all back, so it was a lot of fun. It was very cute. So.
And then finally, and Hillary, I know that it was mentioned earlier, but did you want to talk about the cookout tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow will be our first Wednesday community cookout with Fire Station 12. We hope to see everybody come out 3 to 5 p.m. at the barbecue area at the community center back lawn. And Councilmember McKeecant noted that Fire Station 12 will be doing a grilling safety training, which is great this time of year, so community members can come out and learn how to grill cautiously and safely.
Light their barbecues, their propane without fear.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, thanks to all that, and all of these events have been great. It's nice to see, spring is definitely in the air today, and it's nice to see everything sort of coming back. And I just wanted to finally report out, as you all know, we had an open house at the school site last week. It was well attended. We estimate about 100 people came through the doors. I know most of you were there at one point, not more than 2 at once, Carrie, so you don't have to worry about that. But we will be assembling, a lot of the feedback we received, and we'll be continuing to inform the community. As you all know, we're still in escrow. We haven't completed the transaction. We're working with the school district. I do believe that the 30-day due diligence period, if we both meet our requirements, will end next week, which then gives us another 15 days. So if everything goes as scheduled, we should be able to close the transaction by the end of April. And then we will more formally, organize an outreach process, which gets into a lot of the feedback and making sure that the community's involved. So we're off to a good start. I'm happy to... or the staff's happy to answer any questions you have about anything going on in town. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Reeves.
I have to say that the site actually looks great, and especially with the removal of those portable buildings, opening up that whole space, that's got to add more fodder to the ideas coming through the door next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the school district's been really great and cooperative in terms of meeting their end of the deal. So getting those temporary structures or the bungalows out was a big effort.
Vice Mayor Tripp.
I wanted to just echo what Councilmember Reeves said and compliment you, Town Manager, on working so effectively. I was kind of skeptical that the portables could be moved so quickly, but they were, and just, you know, you wouldn't even know they were there. So really great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
And also I should thank, I don't see John, but I know he was probably involved as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, staff, for those great reports. Any council external meeting reports? Councilmember McKee Cant and I attended NVTA, and I think you heard a lot of the discussion about the thrust of all of our meetings at our last. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I will add for members of the public who rely on transportation that in July, their fiscal year, there will be a slight raise in fares. They have held off since 2015. But there is a state mandate, Transportation Development Act, that requires NVTA to achieve a 15% fare box ratio, which they currently were not meeting. So the problem with raising fares at the same time while they're also trying to raise ridership means that fares will go down for the short term, but they do anticipate through Antonio's finances that this will help them meet their requirements. But it was hard to raise fares for people that are already struggling. And then the other thing that was covered that I thought was kind of interesting is that the Vine Trail connection from St. Helena to Calistoga is costing an additional $740,000 that the Up Valley communities, along with the Vine Trail and the NVTA, are having to meet, and they are turning around and building back to PG&E when they have that prepared. But it's because of delays on PG&E's ends with Gelati Brothers. But it was a hard pill for those Up Valley townships to have to swallow.
Just, to kind of pat ourselves on the back, Yountville was the first jurisdiction that built our part of the Vine Trail, and we paid for it with our general fund. And actually, it's probably cost us more than the Up Valley City. So good for Yountville.
Yeah, well, and Caltrans prices going up, like she said. So,
yeah.
Good.
All right, so with that, I don't see any more lights. Can we get a motion for adjournment? One last minute, Mayor Tripp.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly report on the Climate Action Committee at the last meeting, which was probably, the last meeting, the big issue was a model ordinance on kind of basically getting rid of plastic bags and also making sure that reusable utensils are used in an intelligent way, and with the main idea being that we kind of reduce the use of throwing away utensils in terms of food and fast food. So Pam and I are on an ad hoc committee that was established by the town and are looking at the model ordinance to see what would fit with Yountville, and then working with the business community. And also this goes on against a backdrop of trying to make sure that what we put in the ordinance fits with what is actually feasible in terms of composting. And that requires, for example, working closely with the Upper Valley to find out what the capacities are for composting, as well as what kind of utensils could be recycled in the event that people do end up with recyclable utensils for food that they're eating off-site, basically. So, but you go ahead, Pam, if I didn't cover all that. So we're going to continue working on that. It's going to be a little bit of a process, but I think a good process. And we have made a commitment, everybody on the Climate Action Committee, to give the committee a progress report in 90 days. And I think the county will be the first one looking at this model ordinance, because the Board of Supervisors asked the Climate Action Committee to basically for lack of a better word, bless the model ordinance so that then they could consider how it applies to the county and have a public hearing. So there'll be lots of opportunity for input, and we're also working with Gary to make sure that we're, because some of the existing law, at least to me, is a little bit confusing, make sure that we're not gilding the lily too much or asking for things that are already in place. And so we'll be doing that as well to make sure that we have a rational, clear ordinance and program. So,
I thought, are we basing ours at all on the Calistoga ordinance?
You know, the model ordinance is basically, I need to go back and look at the Calistoga ordinance, but it's basically based on the Calistoga ordinance with more input from Climate Action Now. And that's one of the other things that Pam and I need to do or would like to do. We want to now, just this week, the Calistoga ordinance, or it was in March, will be going into effect. And it had, I think, a 9-month lag. So it'll be very interesting to see where the rubber hit the road, because they're in a similar position in terms of what can be recycled and what can be composted. And somebody just briefly made a comment to me from the Calistoga City Council that, for example, they're having trouble finding any takeout cups that are actually either reusable or biodegradable. So we can learn a lot from their experience, basically.
All right, seeing any more lights, can we get a motion to adjourn and a second? And you want us to vote on this? Yes, okay. We can hear our buttons.
Move to adjourn
To Tuesday, April 16th at
10:30.
At 10:30.
Second it.
And with that, that passes unanimously. So good night, everybody out in TV land. So we'll wait till our red light goes off and we'll be done. Thank you, everybody.